Hey folks, it's Monday, the 8th of December, and Christmas is coming. Yeah, we're gonna have a look at these markets here. I've picked this week. I'm looking at NRT, big favorite of mine. Bitcoin, Ethereum. We're gonna check in on those trades. We're looking at the FTSE and silver. So let's get into it here. And so you got a dual screen here, daily bars and the higher time frame stuff on the left, and the 30-minute and whatnot on the right here. So we're just gonna really have a look at NRT. Okay, so NRT is essentially an oil royalty company, and I'm not going to get into all the details about what NRT is. I'll leave that up to you guys and girls to look at what the company does. But essentially, they make money on oil and gas royalties, drilling in the North Sea um, uh, through a German lease. All right, and so this thing pays at the moment a 12.62% dividend. Now, this has been lower and it has been paying higher dividends. Okay, so at the lower prices. So if we just kind of focus here on the sort of bigger time frame, well, this is sort of a medium at higher time frame. This is the daily time frame. This thing is up about 56 odd percent on the year, beating the S&P 500. I don't know if it's beating the Mag 7, but I don't really care about beating the Mag 7. I'll leave that for someone else to do. If we go way out here on the big wig chart, all right, and look at this on the decade, all right, what has happened here is that we have essentially um, lifted from the decade minus one. So that is average value on the 10-year current against the current, or sorry, against the prior 10-year period. It's the average value low is low price for the last decade is 5.87. Okay. Now the current average value low for this current decade is at -1 there, and that's currently at $4.86. Now, I have had the foresight to buy this in spades, pretty much, all the way from probably sixes all the way down to the bottom, 392s, and we're holding here. I love this thing. I love getting paid dividends, but what I also love getting paid at the same time is growth. Okay, so this thing up 50 odd 6%, 56 odd percent on the year. And we're getting paid dividends for being in there to the tune of about 12.6 at the moment. Um, I have averaged a larger dividend, quarterly dividend on this thing. The main thing for growth that we're seeing this year in NRT is that they are now released from impairment charges that they had to pay down in Q4 of last year. I think they only finished paying down the impairment charges in Q1 this year. So that has allowed them to to increase their dividend to back to what it was, which was actually around 20%. Um, and so all that debt is paid down and gone. And so now this thing, I think, is on the way back to 948. Again, this is not trading or investment advice. This is just really what I'm doing. I love this company. I think it's a winner. I think gas being the number one replacement stock for oil as we look to the next 10 to 20 years. I'm holding this thing for that whole time. And you know what? I'm getting paid for doing that as well. And that's the beautiful thing about dividends. So look, NRT, I think this thing is now really strong as it's put in a good couple of weeks, pretty much above the decade prior value area low, which is at 5.87s, which I've said already. So 5.87, certainly up to 9.48s, which is average value on this decade. All right. And so then, lots could happen there, but I'm mindful that this thing is going to live in this upper space for the next 5 to 10 years. All right. Um, Bitcoin. All right. So, you know, but let's cut back to well, geez, really it was last month. Well, really what 5 and so really 2 weeks ago, the world was falling apart for this thing. These are weekly bars on Bitcoin, all right? And what you're looking at here is VWAP on the decade. The trade I had put out there, and I had actually been putting this out for probably 2 months, when we were up around here, was that Bitcoin had to pull back to the or the Deca plus one, which is Deca plus one, to then have a bounce. Okay. And sure enough, there the week of the 17th November, that's what happened. We came down, we traded the figure, and we're bouncing. Okay. So where are we in relation to that figure right now? We are, well, let's just, I suppose we'll take from the low. We're up 14%. We're up 14% on that. So nice trade. I think this is going to yield a new all-time high as long as the market's, the black swan doesn't flap its wings somewhere. I think we're going for a new all-time high on Bitcoin from this contact. I mean, you can certainly see that's what happened the last time we were down here at this level, a dynamically moving level on the 5th of August, and it rallied there from 52,000 to, well, actually, into the all-time high. So yeah, I think we got another all-time high from there. So I'm just kind of checking in on that trade that we posted there a number of weeks ago now. And here was the contact. A couple of people asking me where were some stops on the equity indices calls I had around the same time. And I did publish that out on Substack. So really I'd be stops below that local low here, 80. I think it's 80,750. I've just marked it up on the charts here. I think, this should have a retest around the YPVH 82,000. You're looking at weekly VWAP here. Might just swap that out. These are customized VWAPs you're looking at. Thank you, Max. So, yeah, I think a retest. Well, actually, if you look over here, you've seen that it had put in that low at the yearly plus one or the decade plus one, and then pushed up, and then look at that little bit there, it lifted off of the yearly PVAH. Tried to come back here, and they lifted it again to a new high from that low into this high. So we're just really rotational on the current month. MP val being here, switched this there, session there. So yeah, there's your MP val coming in at around 87,725. So we price for the pullback. So there's a lot of confluence kind of coming into this market at this point. 87, was it 87, 750s in around this area, right? 705s, like that. So I like the medium to long-term longs here on the product, and you'd be stopping out below 86.95s. So on an entry here, you'd have to use your own risk management, because there's just far too much wiggle room between an entry long here and that swing long stop, which would be below the 87.50s, right? You'd have to use your own intraday risk management here, or swing risk management there. So yeah, I really like long continuation on Bitcoin at the moment. Now, at the same time, which I didn't have a chance to put this out at the same time, but we cut to Ethereum when we go out in the bigger look here on the weekly bars, decade VWAP. Look what happened. Pulled back, decade VWAP closed at that level, reopened, and we're off to the races. Now, obviously, this is a swing level. This is not something that you're going to be just scalping in and out of. I mean, you can intraday playing on the long side, buying the dips, not selling the rips. I mean, that's up 15% from there. I think it can easily go another 20 here, to be honest. So take from there up to this decade plus one. Yeah, that would be a 36% overall move to the upside. But ultimately, if we kind of have a broader view here, because we haven't had very kind of wishy-washy either side trade here, I think we can get new all-time high on Ethereum. All right, so I'm looking at that guidance. All right, let's move on. FTSE. Um, I think the last time I traded the FTSE probably 8 years ago. Um, well, maybe not that long ago. But either which way, there's the reason why I have this on the scoreboard, on the monitor board at the moment is that there's a lot of confluence coming in here on FTSE. Now, over here on the left, you can see that yearly VWAP plus one looks like it needs one of those contacts similar to Bitcoin, a pullback and then a rally from there. But in between there, all right, now you it's kind of intraday short sort of a setup there, but in between there, if we zoom in, you can see that on the monthly context, this market needs to sort of pull back to the monthly prior value area low, um, or it can do further upside essentially, right? And so if we zoom out here, this is the prior month, and then we project that forward. And look at this. So I think if we get a contact here, so what price is that? 95.88. So just call that 95.88. So if we go back um to the yearly plus one, 95.88, that's gonna 588 is just gonna be up here. Okay. So if this fails, your risk is really below here. You know, if this crater is below the MP valve, this trade is broken. And for me, that's fine. You know, you take a shot there, see if you can swing it. I think there'd be good intraday long here. You know, maybe let it break first, then reestablish and buyers come back in. And if that breaks, I think there's going to be a much stronger swing from the long Y plus one. So eye out for that. So yeah, really nice stuff going on the footsie. And then what everyone really wants to talk about at the moment is silver. Now I'm actually going to go to that